Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, episode number 395. Let that sink in. 395. And we are here each and every week on podcast and audio, discussing the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. So make your Monday a Blue Monday. And here at the bottom of the screen is David Diamond. Hello, Dave.
Ben, all right?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good to see you, mate. Haven't sort of been on for a while, have we? I don't think.
Not together, no. I think you've been avoiding me, Dave.
Yeah, or vice versa. I'm not sure which way round it is, Ben. You know.
There you go. I have been speaking frequently on the midweek streams, though, with Matteo Sereni, Joe Fairs today.
How you doing, guys?
We're all lovely and beautiful, and we're ready to talk about the FA Cup. Before we get to Ipswich versus Portsmouth in round one of the FA Cup, played in November of all times, I wanted to just get an idea of how the significance of the FA Cup has changed for the club over. Well, let's go 1980. Dave can do that. 2000, Joe can do that. And then where the significance is now for the club, if there is indeed any, or if it's just a nuisance. Dave, what was the significance of the FA Cup to Ipswich Town 40 years ago in 1980?
It was huge, absolutely huge. I mean, it was the most important, the most important competition of the lot, really. Okay. Obviously, you win the championship, you prove yourself back then Division 1 as it was then, you prove yourself over 42 games. But the FA Cup back then was the be all and end all, and I know you hear these people talk about it, people of my age talk about it, but that's what I grew up with, and Cup final day is like the biggest footballing occasion of the whole season, because there wasn't any live football. There was like three, as I've mentioned before, there was like 3 live football matches a season, which was European Cup, as always, FA Cup final in England, Scotland, and that was it. No other live football. So the FA Cup took on extreme importance. And obviously, being an Ipswich fan back then, 1980, as we all know, we stood a bloody good chance of winning it. We'd won it 2 years before. 1980, remember it well, it was a season. Again, we got to the quarter-final, lost out at Everton. But, yeah, it was huge back then, absolutely massive. And obviously, very much in the realms of... it took as many replays as you like to get the game, to get a result, which, just great.
Tremendous. So, Joe, if you fast forward then, so that was 40 years ago, fast forward 20 years, so you're now a little bit more in the picture, let's just say, 2000, and we got knocked out by Southampton, didn't we? Is that where it was a weird one in December?
It was almost the beginning of the end of the FA Cup, wasn't it? Because that was the year where the FA wanted Man United to go to Brazil to play in the Club World Cup to help with our World Cup 2006 bid. And Man United effectively withdrew from the FA Cup. They didn't enter it, and they were the holders at the time. So it just became, I don't know, that was almost the first sign of them not entering it. And then all of a sudden it was reserve sides being played and things like that. But if you think back in 2002, was it, when we were in the Premier League, the sort of start of that season, or 2001, the shirt of the keeper I'm wearing, Matteo Sereni, who in his first season in English League football asked to be rested for a FA Cup tie away when we were in a relegation battle in the Premier League. Our first choice goalkeeper didn't want to play on a frozen pitch against a non-league side, and it was seen as a massive deal. Now, could you imagine a keeper in their first year in the country, used to a winter break, playing in an FA Cup third round tie away at a non-league tie in the Premier League? It's ludicrous, really, isn't it, to think of it like that?
Yeah, so I think you're right, Joe. It all started with United. It totally devalued everything, really. It's gone from there, really.
Well, would 2000 have been when a vast TV audience is watching Zinedine Zidane volley that goal in at Hampden in the Champions League final? And it's like, okay, everyone's watching this now. No one cares about the FA Cup anymore.
Yeah, possibly.
But Dave, coming back to you, where does it stand now in 2020 as a League One club with a short pre-season in COVID?
It's irrelevance, isn't it? It's just an irrelevance now. It's so sad to see. It really is. And I mean, yesterday, I don't think everyone knows the result yesterday, but I think with now one FA Cup game in 19 ties, obviously counting replays as well. 1 out of 19 games with one. It's just, there's just no importance of adhering to it now. And I think it's just sad, very sad. But I can see why, fixture congestion and everything else is going on. But I don't know. I still say, it'd been great to have always say it every season with Ipswich. It'd be great to have a cup run, brilliant to have a cup run, but you just know it's not going to happen. It's almost resigned to it now.
I think especially when there's no away game you can go to either this season. You can't even go for the cup run for the new stadium. Anyway, sorry, Joe, what were you going to say?
Yeah, like topically this week, I think Statman tweeted that the last time, other than Lincoln in January, the last time we won an FA Cup game, George W. Bush was president of the United States. So that's how frequently we win in the FA Cup. Sort of every third president, it seems we do it. But I'm always one that's in the camp of good to have a cup run, good to keep winning, good to keep momentum. But this year, I think it is just all bets are off this year. And when you look at the schedule, because we won in the first round of the League Cup, that means we've got a minimum of 52 games in a 34-week season. That's 18 midweek games you've got to fit in. And the fixtures, because we lost yesterday and Charlton lost, that game that was Tuesday night in December is now a Saturday in... Is it the start of December now?
Yeah, let's get to that.
End of November,
Joe. And we talk about approach, and I think you've kind of both already answered the question in not so many words. But the schedule Joe's talking about is 11 games were on the books between 21st of November and 2nd of January. So with a win, that then obviously goes up to 12, and you fill the 28th of November, which is what you're talking about, Joe. If Ipswich and Charlton were to happen to both lose yesterday in home games, then you do take one game that would have then been another cup game, and you can have a little gap. I mean, it's still absolutely insane, the actual schedule. With that being said, Dave, here, I'll bring them up there. There is the team that we came up with. So Cornell in goal, Kenlock, McGuinness and Ciala, Danassian across the back. Hughes, McGavin comes in. Nolan, was last time we saw McGavin that game against Fleetwood? Anyway, I'll answer that in a minute. Sears, Bennett plays from the start, and Hawkins. What do you think of that team, Dave, and the approach? Could he really justify doing anything else?
Probably not. I think it's a pretty strong team, really, looking at that. And then when you consider the bench as well, I think it's a reasonable signing, which shows to a degree, I guess it does show the sort of depth of our squad. But certainly, you think back to last season, a couple of seasons back, we could nowhere near put out a side. I don't think we'd nowhere near put out a side like that. So, yeah, I was quite encouraged by that side. Where was Dobra, Joe? Injured? Where's Dobra?
I don't know, because I assumed he'd gone off on international duty early. But I just saw on Instagram 22 minutes ago, so about 7 o'clock, he was at London Luton Airport flying out. So I don't know why he wasn't involved, whether he had a knock, whether they didn't want him risking. I don't know where their games are, but hopefully it was due to that he wasn't involved, because I think he deserved a chance otherwise.
Well, and I suppose if he was injured, unless he wouldn't be going, would he? If he was any sort of...
No, but they might have a game. They might have a game on Monday, for example. I don't know. I don't know their schedule, so he might.
So he was the only one that I thought, we spoke about it during the week or last weekend. I think he was the only one I thought would feature, but we thought Hughes would come in. I thought maybe Jackson would start, maybe, but he was on the bench, obviously. But yeah, by all accounts, pretty strong side. What did surprise me though was the approach that obviously Kenny Jackett took with his side.
We'll come to that in just a sec, Dave. Joe, you put out a tweet. How close were you to this team? I retweeted it, but I haven't checked back. Did you get it right?
No, I had Dobra in there sort of instead of what was effectively Sears. But and after speaking to someone, I realised that McGavin was probably going to play. But I'd have sort of probably had Corey and Darber in there at the back as well. So But if you look in that squad, everyone in there, apart from possibly Freddie Sears and Ollie Hawkins, needed a game really, because
I remember you pointing that out.
Cornell hasn't played much, Nasian hasn't played much, Kenlock hasn't played much.
Really?
McGuinness has just come into the team, but he's still only played 2 or 3 games. Enciala's now out of the team, sort of bar Wolfie, Hughes, Nolan's coming back from suspension, Bennett's hadn't had a start yet, so it was very much sort of the right team for me, because as we were saying earlier, the fixture pile up in this division is ridiculous this year, and you just do not want any more games. But if you win and you can then play 9-10 changes again, then that's fine, because it keeps giving people games. But you just don't want to get yourself into a situation where it just piles up on you. Because I think Darren McAnthony on his podcast, he was saying that the season is so tight this year that even if Peterborough have a situation where they have 3, 4, 5 guys come down with COVID, they won't be postponing the game, because that is just going to catch up with them. They'd rather just play under 23, take the hit now, than have that extra game midweek, because he just said the schedule is what is going to decide this season, in his view.
Dave?
Yeah. No, I think that Joe's right. I think the ideal scenario yesterday would have been, get a win and then draw someone like as it turns out, a Canvey Island or Marine or someone like that at home, which, let's face it, should be a free hit, and you can even play a weaker side than we played yesterday potentially in that, and then who knows, a 3rd round draw. But yeah, there is a lot of football. You're right, there is a lot of football to be crammed in, and
we do acknowledge the argument of, okay, after this is a week off, international break, and there's an EFL trophy game on Tuesday, which we'll touch on later. So we do acknowledge that argument that, what are you resting for? But as Joe has clearly pointed out, and Dave there, it's a very long season in even shorter span. Dave just alluded to the fact that Pompey were they unchanged, guys?
Absolutely unchanged.
Yeah. Unchanged. So McGilvray in goal, Johnson, Raggett, Nicolaisen and Pring across the back, Harness, Cannon, Naylor and Curtis across the midfield, Marquis and Williams up top. And let's go to Joe on this first goal. And we're going to talk Wolves, we're going to talk own goals, and obviously mention Craig Hignett and Richard Wright in 2000, because it never takes me long to mention that. But here is the free kick. If you're watching on YouTube, you're able to see this. Curtis is going to curl this around the wall. Freddie Sears is stood about a metre outside of the wall, and there is no possible player on the overlap. So I don't know why you would do that. The ball is played into the gap between Nolan and Sears, bounces once, hits the post, hits Cornell on the back, and goes into the goal. 11 minutes in. I'm sure Dave could give a one-word treatment on this, but Joe, give us... just talk about the wall and whether Cornell could have done any better, or was he just unlucky after it hit the post?
I have no idea what Freddie Sears is doing in the wall. He's
not in the wall.
He's not in the wall.
He's next to it, isn't he? It's just utterly pointless. And I've read on the Anglian today that it was either Andy or Stu was saying that Cornell was frantically trying to get that wall sorted, but he just, for some reason, it just wasn't work. They just weren't listening to him. I don't know what. I don't know what was happening. But later on in the game, when there was another free kick, when the wall actually stood as a wall and blocked it, he did shout something like "much better" that time. So I think he felt let down by the people in front of him rather than his organisation. I don't know, but it's just a tough one, because I think he should get a hand to it, because he gets right across to it. But it's almost like he thinks it's going wide and sort of leaves it, and then it hits a post and comes back off him. But it's just a freak goal, really, isn't it? Once it's past the excuse for the wall, he's very unlucky.
Dave?
It's just a poor one, isn't it? Because it's obviously if they take it quickly, because I think they spend a little time sort of sorting it out. And the other fullback is Prings, who runs over it as if he's shaping the kick, hit it left foot. He runs over it and then he hits it. Joe's right. It's just Sears has just got in a bizarre position. He's either in the wall or he's not. There's no overlap. What's he doing there? And it's not as if he's
almost doing more harm than good, though.
Almost he is, because the ball doesn't go around the hot. Well, if we're saying, it does go around the wall because he's not in the wall. It's just odd. It's really odd. I don't think he's there. I don't think Cornell's obviously positioned the wall like that, because what advantage is that? He can't. From his position the other side. It's a really odd one. yeah, it's a bit of a freak one because he sort of get a bit of a hand to it, hits the post a little bit unlucky. It's one of those ones where you see it go in and you think, oh, it's actually gone in, sort of thing, So yeah, he didn't cover. Certainly, the wall didn't cover itself as such, and what Sears was doing, God only knows. And yeah, a little bit unfortunate on Cornell, but probably should have got a stronger hand to it.
Build the wall. Build the wall better. This is not even going down any of those roads today.
Leave it.
It's never ending, isn't it, at the moment? But yes, and certainly a bit worrying. We won't dwell on it, but what Joe's just said there, if people either aren't being heard or aren't being listened to, that's not ideal with goalkeepers and instructions and teamwork and building the wall.
I'll throw this in there. Had it been a league match, and perhaps I won't say perhaps Chambers had it been playing, do you think perhaps it would have been allowed a voice with some better organisation there? I know the keeper obviously positions his own wall.
He is loud though, Cornell, as well. That is something you notice when he's playing. You hear him all game. He's definitely
Joe. I'm loud, but no one listens to me.
Well, maybe you could play goal for Ipswich.
I've seen Ben playing goal. He really could.
Oh, when I'm playing, it's just where can you put me on the pitch where I'll do the least damage and the least shouting.
Not true.
Right, let's go to another pretty rubbish goal, to be honest, Dave. This is
horrible.
This is Naylor on the edge of the box, and I mean we've got the freeze frame up there. Look, we're very, very deep. The ball's been cut back. Players clearly in the line of the shot.
There was a couple of.
Here's the leg coming out from McGuinness and deflects it around Cornell in the goal. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean McGuinness, who I think is going to be a really good young player. Didn't start the game very well because I think he gave away the sort of fairly cheapish free kick for the first goal. And this is a bit of a one. I think the first phase of play, McGavin sort of gets caught under the ball a bit of a weak header. Then it's played square. Then I think the right side of player plays it in. McGuinness gets a half decent header, but I think out again to the same player, plays it inside, and I think to Naylor, who shows McGuinness heads it out to Naylor, who shows really good composure, gets it down, gets his head up, and just lays it slightly behind him. And it's just, again, it's unfortunate, really. It's a side foot, no sort of effort at all. And I think Cornell would have got it comfortably. And yeah, just big deflection off McGuinness. Unfortunate McGuinness. And in the corner at that stage, we are miles off it, aren't we? My God.
And two incredibly preventable goals. But we're going to get one back, Joe, before half time. It's a bit of a just they're all lame ducks, these goals in this game. It's played up into Nolan, who's kind of playing the big guy flick on. It comes back to him, I think, off the Pompey player. And then actually from there, I mean, if you look at our freeze frame we've got there, it's a really nice touch with the left foot and spin and hit with the right foot nice and low. So it's all a bit easy for him to get into that position, but a nice take and finish, Joe. And I know it's not a bad time to score, but a good time to get one back just before half time.
Yeah, it has been something we've been doing a lot better this season. But when we've struggled and we've been playing at a slow tempo, we just have not got that midfield runner ahead of the ball, which is what happened here. Nolan actually makes a third man run, gets ahead of the defenders, runs in the box, and McGuinness picks him out with a really good ball into him, sort of making up for the sort of two earlier errors that Dave mentioned. And Nolan sort of tries to take it down, but it's the run that does it. It's people getting in the box and making defenders make errors. And then when the ball does fall back to him, it's a really smart finish.
Dave?
Yeah, it is. I think he tries to sort of help the ball on. It's a good ball from McGuinness that picks him out, and he tries to, I think, help it on. I think it's Sears and Raggett sort of gets a foot in, but yeah, good touch. I mean, we know he's got that. We know he's got that in his game. Great touch, technique, spin, great finish. Almost out of nowhere, wasn't it? Because again, I don't think we'd come a little bit more into the game because you didn't mention, but Cornell made a really good save at 2-0, literally 2 minutes or 3 minutes after. I think must have been perhaps on the 20th minute or something like that. He made a really good save, low down with his legs, I think, to prevent it going to 3-0. But Yeah, there's the first really bit of direct football we played, because it was just awful yesterday. Again, it was a lot of this very nice passing, very nice possession, but really in our own half, a lot of it. And Matt Holland was summarising, wasn't he? You could tell he was getting very, very annoyed with it, really. So first bit of direct play, resulted in a goal. And as you say, good time to score. Obviously, good time to score. And you go in at half time a little bit more confident, a little bit more buoyed.
We see the sight of James Norwood on 62 minutes. He's going to come in for Hawkins, and Dave, he's going to score straight away. But first of all, quite the assist, I would say, from Freddie Sears here. Ball is played into him, and it's a cushion right foot volley, which completely splits the two centre halves and lands perfectly for Norwood, who is really composed, actually. Waits. The keeper stands, and then he quickly hits it right into the corner, into the side netting. Not that much to be positive about in this game, but great key pass by Sears and really good composure by Norwood, who looked very relaxed going through there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, I think we should mention, just not long before that, Hawkins gets substituted, and the penalty shout on Hawkins. My word. What?
It was just a rugby tackle, wasn't it?
I mean, he just had a bunch of his shirt, pulled him down, bunch of his shirt. I mean, okay, if the ref's not got a good sight of that, my goodness me, the linesman, honestly. But anyway, enough of that. Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? I think it's a clearance. I think Donasian sort of clears it from his own half. Great touch, sort of feathered touch around the corner from Sears. And then and it's all about Norwood, and it's really good because we saw him miss a lot of one-on-ones. Let's face it, certainly early part of last season in general. But no, it's really cool. Took it close to the keeper, committed the keeper, and lovely goal. Lovely, sort of just clipped it in the corner. Beautiful 2-2. And we were very much, in the ascendancy then, weren't we? Really were.
Edwards comes in for Bennett. We go into extra time. Lancaster comes in for Sears, and Judge for Hughes. Obviously, you can have the extra subs. In deference to Pompey, as you would say, Dave, Close has a big chance, which he should hit the target with. Harness hits the post as well in extra time. And then we're going to have great fun with this winning goal for Pompey here. So let me go first here. And we have to do this across 5 different pitches here. And then, Joe, you can come in, and then Dave. So here is the free kick from Harness. You can see Raggett is kind of borderline off in the first instance. It's going to turn out to be irrelevant. So in it goes. Naylor wins the header. So now Raggett is definitely offside. But this doesn't matter because Cornell's going to make the save, and we know, okay, it's a new phase of play.
Yeah.
Out it comes out. There is Nicolaisen, who heads the ball, and it is going to go into the goal whether or not anybody touches it. So Nicolaisen headers it from about 1 yard. Normally on offside calls, there's normally at least a player between the attacking player and the goal. We hope for the statutory 2. There is no one between Sean Raggett and the goal. And for some inexplicable reason, with the ball going into the net, Raggett from, as you can see there, about 6 inches, clearly kicks the ball over the goal line. Okay, the linesman looks nicely positioned there. He may have a couple of bodies in the way. It happens very quickly. So ignore all of the first bit. Nicolaisen heads the ball. Look, you're not going to get "we was robbed," referees hate us, blah, blah, conspiracy theory on Blue Monday. But this is offside, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it's offside. Yeah, it is. Just going back to that picture, because I think conceivably when Nicolaisen sort of, I don't know if your head is, it sort of bundles it towards goal. I think, is that McGuinness the other side of that? Is that McGuinness the other side of both of them there? He's got a chance of, if Raggett's not there, he's got half a chance of clearing that because it's not going with any great pace. All right, he's really close. That ball is not moving with any great pace. It's going to go in from Nicolaisen, but who's to say McGuinness isn't going to get round there?
Getting there, hooked up to my. Well, Donasian has just come out. I just read on TWTD that Donasian said that the linesman said that McGuinness is the one that put the ball in the goal. That's why he didn't give it.
Hang on, didn't we have this Chambers Wickham type scenario like last year, didn't we?
So apparently it's just an abysmal piece of officiating, isn't it? I know we were very frustrated midweek with the Dizelle red card, which I don't think was a red card. The penalty, which I don't think was a penalty yesterday. The penalty on Hawkins that was mentioned earlier. The foul for the free kick before this, which Harrison buys off Danassian. The over the top challenge on McGuinness, which was a much worse tackle than Dizelle put in. And I say we've been on the wrong end of 5 big decisions in 2 games there. And I suppose the only thing you hope for is that it evens itself out over the season and we get 3 big ones go our way in league games as opposed to 3 against us in the cup game, because it was just abysmal, really. And there's no excuse for it. It's not even contentious, is it? I didn't really understand why the BBC commentator kept saying, "Oh, it does look as though it was offside." If it was, and I was just think, it was offside. There's no 2 ways about it. It's just clear and obvious.
You look for, when you're watching these, you kind of look for, on these clear and obvious ones, you say you're trying to figure out what's gone wrong there. And like you say, does he think that no one's touched it? Does he think that like you were saying, that McGuinness put in? You try and figure out how we're not saying anyone's bent against this. You're trying to figure out how the mistake is made, and we're not saying it's a dishonest mistake. It's just inept. And it's one of those, Dave, where talking about the other decisions through the week, the Dizelle one and the red card, you can have a debate about that one, can't you? But offside is black and white. There's no subjectivity at all. You're either ahead or you're not, and it's just a very.
It's not one of those VAR ones, is it, where they're offside by the sort of the width of a
Patrick Bamford was the best one yesterday. I'm sorry, that's got to be the best one. That's got to be the best one. Yeah. Do you know what summed it up? It's 2 things so well. What wound me up in midweek, I know we're not talking about yesterday's game more than anything, was the penalty. I'm sorry, and I know the letter of the law, and I know Ben, you say, if that's a penalty, I'm sorry.
No, Dave, even by the letter of the law, that's not a penalty.
Because
something come off a player nearby. There's even I'm with you. Even
unbelievable. What summed up the officials yesterday, probably more than anything, was when second half Norwood caught the ball. He almost had it under his arm and ran a couple of yards with it. Do you remember that bit? That summed up the officials for me yesterday. Pretty much, the linesman, halfway line. It's just unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable. But we've just been, as Joe said, all you hope is that it evens itself out over the league season and we get 1 or 2 go our way. That was what I was going to add, Dave. All I can hope for is A, it's an honest mistake, and B, it evens itself out. That's all you can hope for. There's no point getting mad or this, that, and the other. No, and
it's an almighty cock up, and let's just fingers crossed that we get one go our way. And when it does go our way, we'll apologise profusely to the team it goes again and say, happened to you. And no to us.
The big concern is, though, that this is the level of officiating in this league, and if we have big games at the end of the season, sort of promotion deciders, playoff games, you're going to be getting one of these refs that is just poor, and one of these poor errors could go against us at a key time, but that's part of the penalty we pay for being in this division.
There you go.
Yep.
So there you have it. It was 3-2, and with all that conversation about the relevance of the cup, the schedule, etc., we are out. And Dave, as he points out, the 1 win in 19, yet again out we go.
Can I just add something else? It's the first time we've lost in the first round of the FA Cup since a 3-1 defeat at Peterborough in November 1955. Just sort of throw that one in.
These new records keep tumbling, Dave, don't they?
It's a mere 65 years ago.
There's not anyone who's at that game that isn't at state pension age.
What that does mean, though, is Joe pointed out, with Charlton's loss against Plymouth, that now takes a game from, we'll talk about the schedule in a minute, from December the 22nd in the already mad, ridiculous Christmas period, and moves it to November the 28th. So still the same amount of games. We'll try and figure out whether that's a net gain or not. Who the hell knows until about January the 3rd, when we know how many points we've got and how many injured players we've got at that point. But look, we're going to come to some questions, guys, in just a second. If I can just quickly plug, we'll figure something out, some coverage for the Crawley game on Tuesday, and then possibly we'll go for a Q&A type pod in the international break. So plenty coming up. If you want to support the podcast, which will always be free, but is our hobby, and we have these softwares and things that we have to pay for, etc., etc. So if you do want to support, if you've been listening for a while and you want to give something back, you can do so either via Super Chat on one of our live streams on YouTube, or you can go to the support facility on Acast. Every little helps, even if it's £2.50 or whatever. It just helps us keep producing the pod and not for it to cost us a whole ton of money whilst we're doing it. Right, let's go. I'm going to do just a few questions, but I'll get both of your takes on them. So this is Andrew. We'll go to Joe first. I was impressed by McGavin. Is he in line to play the Dazelle role whilst he is suspended? I know we're incredibly crowded in central midfield. We've been playing with a deep line playmaker. Any chance of McGavin, or is there too much traffic ahead, Joe?
Well, he certainly did himself a lot of favours yesterday with his performance, because I thought he was very, very, very good. He was the pick of the midfielders for me, and it almost sort of shows up how sort of far backwards Emir Hughes has gone at the moment. McGavin just looked had more tempo to his game, more insightful passing, more spirit, more sort of stronger in the challenge. Yeah, there's a couple of times when his runners ran off him. I think that close chance at the end, he let someone go, or he let close go for that chance. But why not? I think he's done himself. I'm pretty sure now that if the team is named and McGavin is in there ahead of Dazelle, nobody's going to think that is a poor decision that Lambert's made. I think everyone's going to think, yeah, well, he's earned that right with the way he played yesterday. So fingers crossed he can get in there with, I suppose it'd be Teddy Bishop and John Nolan ahead of him.
David?
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. I didn't realise he had it in his locker, that sort of display. And you've got to say, his set plays were absolutely superb. Really good, really good. Corners, free kicks. Well, one iffy free kick, but yeah. So and he I thought he just looked to be progressive. Every time he got the ball, he was looking certainly second half, looking to play forward. I really liked him. Looked composed, looked assured, I would say. And Joe's right. Hughes is, love the guy, and when he first came to the club, 3 or 4 years ago, absolutely brilliant, but he was out for so long. It's just not the same player, shadow of the player he once was, I think, and just not quite. I don't know. He's just off it, isn't he? Off the pace, just lacking a bit of confidence. Not sure what it is, but he's just off it.
David, is a fully fit Norwood going to spearhead that front three best out of the strikers? If you're playing a central striker with people getting around there, Norwood is now fit. He presumably won't do anything on Tuesday, and then you have essentially a 10-day break going into the Shrewsbury game on the 21st. Does he now come in as your starting number 9?
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think he looked really quite fit and sharp when he came on. He really did. He was a bit of a handful. You've got to think, that's Portsmouth who are up there and challenging. That's their sort of first choice back four, as it were, or certainly the back four that played midweek against Lincoln. And I thought he's a real handful. Took his goal really well. Obviously he got himself booked, but that's part of the course with him. And I think Joe said on the WhatsApp, after he scored, I think it was Joe said, he could be so important for us this season, because he is the most natural goal scorer we've got. Hawkins, I think, has done pretty well leading the line. Okay, he's got a goal, but it just doesn't look like he doesn't look prolific enough for us, I don't think. So I see Norwood stays fit, stays suspension free, has been very important for us and can do that job.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, but like I say, if you look at the 4 strikers we've got there now, you've effectively got Ollie Hawkins, who leads the line, but just isn't a massive goal threat. You'd expect him to maybe get 7 or 8 goals over a season. You've got Jackson, who's got the pace, so sort of offers you something different. But realistically, if you want your striker to score you 15 goals this season and be able to do some of the hold-up play, some of the hold-up play, but also give you a goal threat, Norwood is the best all-round sort of player we've got for that role in the squad. He is the one that, if you play him, you lose a little bit of what Hawkins gives you, but you're going to get probably another 9-10 goals out of Norwood this season. So it just if you're going to play Norwood, you rely on someone like a Teddy Bishop being able to play much higher up the pitch as a 10 rather than as a sort of box to box like he has been. I think you just need someone around him because he's someone that's going to try and get off the shoulder. But ultimately, if I was picking my strongest team with everyone fit, I'd have James Norwood in it.
I think so, and I think the goal summed it up. Could you see Sears playing that ball round the corner and Hawkins taking his goal like that? Can't see it. Just can't see it. Yeah.
James asks, with the overall inverted commas decent performances against the so-called top-side Sunderland and Pompey, obviously with the mitigation of maybe a couple of refereeing decisions, going against us. Are we soon to break our top 10 hoodoo? Didn't we beat Accrington? Were in the top 6 anyway? But I take James's point. Joe, we'll look ahead, but in that run of games, Hull, Charlton, Pompey, Peterborough, all of those teams, and I mean Oxford are there as well, and they obviously finished in the playoffs. I know they're down the table at the moment. Joe, big, difficult games. What are you saying?
I don't think we've got anything to fear going into them. Even if you look back, obviously the Doncaster game was just a bit of an aberration, but against Lincoln, whilst they probably edged the game, had we gone away there and drawn there, it's a very different story to this. We always lose to top sides, and the same has happened at Sunderland. We've gone there, we've probably done enough to win that game in the second half, and we end up losing it. But I think that record is just something that is hanging over us, but I don't think it's that big a deal, especially with the way we're playing at home, where we're just sort of beating everyone at home. We just need a tougher game at home that we can get a win in, and just to sort of put it to bed a little bit, because I think last year it was an issue because all the teams that we played who were at the top of the league just looked much more organised, much better coached than we did. Where this year, I don't think that's been the case as much. We look like we know what we're trying to do. Yeah, there's still some bumps in the road, and there's still too much slow passing around the back. But when we up the tempo, like we did for sort of 30, 40 minutes yesterday, we are good enough to play, and it's just a case of Lambert working out what he needs to do to make sure that tempo stays high.
Dave, you got anything to add on that?
No, I totally agree. And I think it showed at Sunderland, again, a bit of a slow start, and it was all very pedestrian. But then when we started playing higher up the pitch, look, till Dazelle sending off, there was only one winner of that game, wasn't it, really? Lancaster scores, decent chance, we go on and win the game, and the hoodoo's broken. So, no, I think there's certainly a lot more hope that we'll do it this year. I think what next game up is Hull, isn't it? Against one of those big four you mentioned.
Yeah,
I think
Hull game back. Yeah.
Hull. So Joe said win against Hull, a tight game at home, and that's well and truly dealt with, and off you go.
Yeah. Great stuff. Right. So next up, before this international break and that run, we have to mention this creepy Crawley game. There is the state of play in the EFL Trophy. Ipswich second in the group, having lost against Arsenal under-21s and beaten Gillingham. So every chance of qualifying again for the latter stages, which you will be pleased to hear don't happen until after the midweek after the FA Cup. So you do still get that 9th of January, I think it is, that gap. Joe, what would you do against Crawley? Are you already sending certain first team players home, or have they already been home since midweek last week, let's just say? And what can you get out of this Crawley game positively?
Without a doubt, no first team players involved at all for me, and unless there is somebody, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, somebody who is sort of coming back from injury and just needs a game. You treat it like an under-23s game for me. Whether, like I say, obviously had James Norwood not played on Saturday, you might have given him a start on Tuesday just to put some minutes in his legs. But ultimately, it's a game that I'd love to win that game with an under-23 side, a similar side that we played at home against Gillingham. But obviously Cornell in goal, but your Elkin Baggett, your Liam Gibbses, Tyrese Simpson, Dobra, McGavin again, or do you need to rest him effectively but another game for McGavin will probably help him and stuff. So I would be putting an under-23 side out and hoping that we win so that we can put an under-23 side out in the next round and just give these youngsters more and more experience. But you just cannot risk any first teams in this game. There's competitions. like I say, it's only just picked up a sponsor, hasn't it? It's a bit of a joke that competition's even going this year in the Papa John's Trophy. But I loved to see the team that was named against Gillingham in the sort of last tie, and I loved the way that they played and were able to win with such a young team. When you got players like Elkin Baggett up against John Akinde and things like that, that was a massive win. But if you put that team out Tuesday and we lose and we go out, so be it. But that's what I'd be doing.
And anything to be done in that game, Dave, in terms of, or is it just a no-win situation?
No win, isn't it? I agree with Joe. Yeah, put the bones of the team that played at home at Gillingham, and everything to gain from that, really, for those lads, and just continue with that.
So let's talk just briefly, and we'll do a kind of Q&A thing next weekend in the Gap. So there is the league table, 2 points per game. Again, 22 points from 11. Second spot, Charlton just behind with a game in hand. Hull with a game in hand, and Sunderland with a game in hand, within sort of striking distance. 7 wins in 11. You look at the table and you think this is a good football team that wins more games than they lose. And it's a really, really key period in the season, David. We said 11. Well, it's going to be 12. No, it's 11, isn't it? Sorry, because of the no cup game in there. And it's, to quote the now Cyprus-bound Mr. McCarthy, the Saturday, Tuesday. So, look, let me just bang through this, Dave, and see if you can get your head round how you think this period is going to play out, and how important this period could be. So, Shrewsbury at home on 21st of November, then Hull at home on the midweek. Now the Charlton game fits in this. You have Charlton and Hull back to back in the same week.
Charlton at home. Is Charlton at home or away?
Pass. I don't recall. I don't know. Actually,
it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah.
Joe, can you check that while I'm reading through? Thank you. Then Oxford. Plymouth away on a midweek day.
Yeah, that is a home game, Charlton.
So 3 home games on the spin. Wow.
Hull and Charlton back to back at home. Yeah. That could be really vital. 4 points or 6 points there. Pompey come back, then Burton in midweek, then Peterborough away. Good luck with that one. Now the game before Christmas is clear as it stands at the moment. Remember, there are such things as postponements and snow and things of that nature, which may or may not happen. And then Boxing Day, Northampton, AFC Wimbledon, and then Fleetwood. It's going to be carnage, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You're gonna want that squad fairly intact. That big squad. People saying we've perhaps got a bit of a inflated squad, but you're going to need all of that, aren't you? Yeah. I didn't quite realise. I must confess, I didn't quite realise it was quite so congested between now and the new year. But that's just
It's basically 5 weeks of 2 games every single week.
Yeah, full on, isn't it? Yeah. Well, look. You do need. I know we spoke about it earlier, but we will need to take some points from those big games, won't we? Those four. We need to take some points from there. Really do.
Joe, what do you see in terms of sort of rotation and because when you look at that and you've got essentially, I think they are all home games in that first week against Shrewsbury, Hull, and Charlton. Obviously, you want your big players playing. You want to maximise the chances of winning, but you've got all of these games coming. Are we expecting to see, if we talk about having a decently stocked squad, are you happy with starting to see some rotation through there, or do we think there's going to be a hardcore of players that go through that whole run?
I think there will have to be an element of rotation through there. It's just working out how you can do it without sort of significantly weakening your team, whether it's just sort of 1 or 2 here and there. But I'd say you look at the squad we've got, and there aren't many positions where there's a major downgrade by taking someone out. If that makes sense. Like if you've got Chambers, like he's been really good this year at right back, but Danashian can more than hold his own.
Yeah,
Stephen Ward-Kenlock is a decent sized downgrade, but ultimately, he's 35 and he didn't play the early cup games. He didn't play the sort of midweek games then. He isn't going to be able to play sort of 10 games in 5 weeks. Ken Lock is going to have to come in and have a couple of those games. You just need to make sure, and I know we gave the management team a lot of criticism for the rotation last year, but I know from my point of view, a lot of that criticism was to do with the sort of randomness of the changing of formations rather than the actual players of it. But I know they did a lot of work last year in trying to plan 4, 5, 6 games ahead with regards to resting people, and that's going to be very
overthinking, Joe.
I think they just overthought sort of trying to set up to stop other teams rather than us setting up how we want to play and just making small adjustments on that side. But we've obviously been over that hundreds of times on the pod. But so you are just going to need to. And like I said, when you look at the midfield, Teddy Bishop might need to sit out a game, and then John Nolan plays that role, and hopefully he does well. And that's what happened earlier in the season. Freddie Sears can come in for Gwion Edwards if he needs to. Keenan Bennett can come in for Jack Lancaster. Hawkins, Norwood and Jackson, between the three of them, they can cover it. Like I say, whilst it's not just us, we're not the only team in this league with a mad schedule, and we're one of the teams who's got a squad that is able to handle it without having to put young, inexperienced players in. We've got senior pros that can come in nearly every position on the pitch.
Dave, with 11 games down, by January the 2nd, it'll be 22. Currently in the top 2. Where do you see us being in that empty? If we were to do a Q&A pod on FA Cup week on January the 9th, with 22 games gone, so basically halfway through the season, are we still in the top 2? Are we in the top 6? Are we in the top half? Where after that huge run of games, is there enough grind? Do you know what? It's about the grind sometimes rather than even.
It is about the grind. Do you know what? I think if we're still, I mean, and you've said it's very tight, and those teams, Charlton, Sunderland, Hull, all got games in hand on us. And
just the one,
just the one. No, after that, if we come to FA Cup third round weekend and we're still in the top 6, and that's a little bit of buffer, but there's no, say there's 3, 4, 5 points between automatic and in the top 6, then I think, given those scheduler games we've got, I mean, okay, everyone's still going to be playing, all the others are going to be playing everyone else. I think, I'd like to think we could maintain that.
Joe, just quickly talk to me. We know league tables, what happens at one end affects the other. If you have 3, 4 teams scoring 80, 85 points, the tide decreases at the bottom. Are you still of the mind that it might be someone might be in third place with high 80 points or even 90?
Well, I think there's sort of 6, 7, 8 teams in this league that have been able to sort of, for one reason or another, whether it's a rich owner, whether it's sort of money in the bank, have been able to protect themselves from COVID so much more than other clubs in this division. And there was already a real sort of top 8 that were much better off financially squad-wise than sort of anyone else in the division last year. So I do think that gap between the top 8 and the rest has increased. And like I say, you look at the table and there's 7 teams or 6 teams which are already on 2 points a game, which I don't know if that is high compared to previous years. I've not looked, but that seems high to have that many teams still going along at this rate without having. That's basically 6 teams that have not had sort of a 3 or 4 bad games yet, effectively in this far into the season, which is high. So I do think it is going to be a shootout at the top of the league, and you are going to you just can't drop points against the weaker teams at home in this league. That is an absolute no, and we haven't done that as yet. We've played 5 home games, won them all, yet to concede a goal, and we just need to make sure that home form stays top notch. And so we're going to know a lot more come sort of this time in sort of 3 weeks time after we've played Charlton and Hull at home, because if we've lost to both of those at home, then we are in a real sticky situation, and that is when you're going to need to hope to see. Well, if we lose both those home games, then that is when Marcus Evans may need to act.
Dave, do you think we'll start to see the league table stretch in respects of that the team's less equipped to deal with COVID as we get into this crazy, and there's going to be cancellations still with players missing. Do you think we're going to start to see a few teams go on losing runs as well, like Joe sort of points to?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's only natural, and that's like I said before. When you are dependent on your, the strength and the size of the quality of the squad as well. So yeah, it's gonna pan out like that. It has to this season, I think.
Wonderful. Okay, so that is the FA Cup done for another year, and we've doing this podcast a while. There's not been that much fun in the FA Cup, although I should draw your attention back to one of my favourite Blue Monday shows. Not the final, but Dave talking about the FA Cup semi-final against West Brom is an absolutely fantastic show. So if you want a good, a good listen, Ipswich Town related and the FA Cup, go back into the archives and check that one out. As I suggested, we'll likely do something for Crawley. Look, there's a lot of games, and we'll see what we're doing as we go in terms of podcast, and hopefully we'll. Might even do a live Q&A maybe next weekend at some point in terms of a podcast. Let us know what you want, as ever, at Blue Monday ITFC on the Twitter and in the comments on YouTube. Joe, anything to plug? Anything to add from your end?
Not really. The under-18s obviously won their Youth Cup tie against Southend on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday afternoon. Good 4-1 win there, but it was 3-0 heading into half-time. We conceded right on half-time where we could have been out of sight in the first half. They came back into a bit in the second half, but we got the fourth goal, and there was some decent performance in there. Alfie Cutbush in the middle, Albie Armin, a first year, who was captain the side from left back, and then sort of Liam Gibbs, who was just the best player on the pitch by quite some distance. So it was good to see, actually be able to watch an under-18s game, because they streamed that one on the Facebook. But it's Chelmsford City in the next round of the Cup, but I don't know if that's able to take place during the lockdown, because I'm not sure whether their under-18s are seen as an elite club, because only elite levels continue. They're in the Conference South, which is elite level according to sort of the government guidelines, but it might be that this tie gets pushed back to the other side of it, but I haven't heard anything on that yet.
David, any sign off from you? Depeche Mode in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, and I meant to mention it when I was on Graham's show midweek, that just to sort of get well soon to Paul Mariner, who's recovering from brain surgery, for goodness sake. So yeah, I think obviously personally spoken about him, and again, you can back in the mists of time, you can see one of my top 10 tributes to Paul Mariner. I'm sure it's in there somewhere, but yeah, just to sort of get well, shout out to him, I think.
And Dave, a very fun rainy night. You and I went to Fulham early on in the pod. Freddie Sears scored after about 10 seconds, and Paul Mariner was sat about.
I forgot about that. I
couldn't get Dave to look at the blooming pitch. He was just making kissy faces at Paul Mariner all night.
I was, yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Obviously, from everyone at the pod and probably every Ipswich fan and every football fan, we wish him well. And when we talk about wanting an all-rounder who can play centre forward in the middle of a three,
imagine him in League One.
Probably score about 70 goals in League One. Ridiculous. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll be back. Something for Crawley, something for maybe a Q&A or what have you. And then the mad, ridiculous 11-game run between November the 21st and the 2nd of January. We'll be all over it here on the podcast. Dave, we're going to jump in there, sorry?
Well, yeah, I was just saying, it'll be even stretching our resources, won't it? Stretching the podcast resources.
But we have a bloated squad like Ipswich. We've got plenty of people we can put in, and the standard never drops, does it? And with that being said, we thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.